Once America became a country, things started moving quickly. America started expanding, growing from sea to sea. What started as 13 colonies along the Atlantic Ocean tripled in just 50 years. Okay, and 50 years, just so you know, is not a long time. I know someone who's actually lived almost 50 years, and she's not very old. In our last video, we talked about the Louisiana Purchase in 1803, that crazy real estate deal that puzzled many people all over the world. In the blink of an eye, America had land stretching from the East Coast to Florida and out west of the Mississippi River. But who lived there? Was the land empty? No, it was not empty. Native Americans had been living on that land for over 12,000 years. You heard me right, 12,000 years. But the brand new country now owns it, right? That's what the Louisiana Purchase said. They just bought it from the French. See, they bought it from the French, but the French never bought it from the Native Americans. So the French didn't really own it to sell it. Native Americans did not have a system of land ownership like they have in France or in America. To them, it was communal land. Everybody lived in the land. They shared the land. Some people would change land. Some people moved different places, different seasons. It's like the concept of like who owns the air that we breathe? Who owns the water that we drink? No one, right? We all share it. It's just kind of communal. Well, that's like similar to the belief that the Native Americans had about land. But it gets confusing because that's not what the Americans thought. Beginning soon after the Louisiana Purchase, Native Americans were forced off their land, forced to move out west. In 1830, President Andrew Jackson signed into law the Indian Removal Act.
While I was president, the policy of Indian removal meant land east of the Mississippi River was opened up for American settlement. Native Americans were given land on Indian reservations west of the Mississippi River in Oklahoma. This opened up new land for settlement and started the Trail of Tears.
This act forced Native Americans to leave their homeland and head west to reservations. The lands they were abandoning was soon to be used for plantation farming and more settlement. Back for a future video on the Trail of Tears and New Orleans' own role in this tragic part of American history. Did you know there was a southern route through New Orleans? More to come. The Indian Removal Act was not a random event. It was part of a larger idea growing in America at the time. That idea was called Manifest Destiny.
Hey, my name is Erin. We're going to talk about the Manifest Destiny. The Manifest Destiny is a belief started in 1845. It was the idea that God wanted America to grow west.
Oh, wow.
People thought God gave them the right to take land out west.
What do you mean?
This belief was rooted in the idea that America was an experiment, trying out a new type of government and lifestyle where all men are created equal. There was no king or queen in charge. Anyone could run for president. They were elected by the people and worked for the people. This destiny meant that America was destined by God to move west, to expand, to show the world the example, this great example of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Our manifest destiny to overspread and to possess the whole of the continent, which Providence has given us for the development of the great experiment of liberty. John O'Sullivan, 1845. The idea was fantastic, but it was an ideal, not a reality. It said all created equal, but not everyone was treated as an equal. Not everyone could vote. Not everyone was even free. And not everyone who lived in America was American. So what happens to those people? In 1862, the U.S. passed a law called the Homestead Act.
Hello, my name is Jonathan, and I'm going to tell you about the Homestead Act. The Homestead Act was in 1862. It gave citizens 160 acres out west. Men and women were given land. Did that land belong to anyone before that?
After America bought all that land in France, they needed Americans to live out, otherwise someone else would claim it. It's like calling dibs on a table at lunch in the cafeteria. You have to go sit there, otherwise someone else is going to take your seat. The way America did that was by passing a law giving away lots of land out west. This law was on the book for over 100 years. In that time, in over 100 years, more than 160 million acres of land was given away. That's 250,000 miles of land. In all, 1.6 million homesteaders moved out west, changing the face of the country. And in fact, today, 1 in 3 U.S. citizens is related to a homesteader.
Wow! Look, the Appalachian Mountains! And the Mississippi River! The Rocky Mountains! Wow! Look at that homestead! Oh, I see them planting crops. The Homestead Act, they gave 160 acres of land to people to live on, and they wanted to settle in the West so they could own the West in the Great Plains. It gave people 160 acres of land for free. They just had to take care of the land, and they had to settle it and take care of it, so because they didn't want businesses to come just swoop in and take all the land. The Native Americans' land was given away to people who were head of a family or people who were over 22 and were a citizen of the United States.
In 1866, part of the Homestead Act was expanded to Native Americans. Now Native Americans were given 160 acres of land as well. And while this sounds like equal opportunity, this was a problem because large tribes of Native Americans had already been forced onto special lands called reservations during the Indian Removal Act of 1830. When the new law went into effect, the Dawes Act, the reservations became even smaller. The land went from 138 million acres to just 48 million acres. That is a huge amount of loss. Over 65% of Native American land was given away in this act in 1866. So while the Homestead Act and Westward expansion devastated Native American tribes, it created opportunities for other people. Immigrants came to America from all over Europe, eager for jobs and land. Formerly enslaved African Americans were able to claim and own land just years after being free. Can you imagine how that would feel? And there were also jobs created out west. While some of the jobs might be exciting, like finding gold during the gold rush, psst, did you know that the San Francisco 49ers are called that because the gold rush in California was in 1849? It's a good way to remember it. Others were super hard and dangerous, like mining and building the railroads. Chinese, Mexican, and Irish immigrants all worked hard building out west just for an opportunity in a new country where everyone gets the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Today, America is one of the most powerful countries in the world. The ideal of equal opportunity is cherished. People still come from all over the world looking for an opportunity for a better life, just like the homesteaders back in the 1800s.